I'm Derek Macpherson, the President and CEO of Gold79 Mines Ltd. Gold79 is a Southwest U.S. Gold explorer. We have 3 projects that we're focused on in Arizona and Nevada. I joined the company about 6 months ago, and the reason I joined is I thought that any one of our assets could justify our current market cap.
Okay, Derek, good to see you. First time we've met or spoken, just met each other a few minutes ago. So I better ask about you. What's your background?
So my background, I'm a metallurgist by training. I spent, I worked in industry about 6 years, I guess when I had a real job, as I like to describe it. And then I have an MBA in finance and worked in capital markets. So on the equity research side for about 10 years, worked as a banker at the end, and then decided to make the move in April, May last year to the corporate side and became CEO of Gold79.
Okay, so the company's been going since July 2020 and its current guise, right? And you came in May last year. So what's the brief to you?
The brief history?
Well, yeah, the brief as in they said, oh, we need Derek here. We need to get Derek in the company.
So I'm as a banker, I had helped out with this company in the past. So I knew the directors, I knew the management team, I knew the assets. There was an opportunity. The company had gotten to a point where the CEO at the time had was wearing multiple hats. It didn't make sense for him to be the full-time or to be the face of the company anymore. Actually we were trying to raise the company money, and that was part of the feedback. And so, it was kind of one of those things where the chairman, who's Gary Thompson, who you may know from Brixton, he said, hey, Derek, what about you? So put some thought into it. And then, there was an opportunity because we were raising Gold79 was raising money at that time. There was an opportunity for me to put my money to work in the company and take a reasonable stake. And get positioned. And so that was the, it just made sense at that moment.
Okay, so it's opportunistic, but what about in terms of what you're going to do for the company? What are you focused on? What do you think was not happening before that you're going to do?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things. There was they had done a good job of putting together the assets, and I think we have a good collection of assets. But from getting the message out there that it wasn't because Gary wasn't full time, it wasn't the focus. It wasn't as focused. The other thing is that we needed to move a couple of the projects ahead in different directions. We had talked, our Jefferson Canyon project did a lot of discussion about permitting, but we'd actually not kicked off the process. So that was one of the things that I leaned in and spearheaded. The other thing that we were really focused on at our Gold Chain project is my VPX started to uncover the idea that there was a large regional opportunity there, and so we actually moved aggressively to start consolidating land. And those have really been the two focuses for me. But it needed a full-time manager to help push those things ahead, and that was sort of my why I sort of got the nod in the tap, and I saw the opportunity to unlock value. So
right, okay, and obviously you're going to raise a little bit of money just before Christmas, a couple $1 million there. What's the focus of that? Because obviously it's not a bunch of cash, it's not a lot of money, right? So there's only so much you can do, and companies of 10 million market cap, you're cash constrained, so you got to pick and choose your battles, don't you? So how are you going at it?
Yeah, so that cash, actually, I did not want to raise money in the middle of tax loss selling. My capital markets background, I know how hard it is to raise money in November, December. Fortunately for us, we were able to do a deal on a patented set of ground at our Gold Chain project that we could buy outright. So it was a US $250,000 purchase. We announced it in January. And so I had the sort of a letter of intent signed that was going to happen. And I needed to raise, I didn't have the cash in the bank to raise that money. And so that was the reason to push to go then. I much would have rather waited till January, February now when markets are a little bit better to go out and do that raise. So that's what sort of forced our hand then. And so that consumed a chunk of our cash. Obviously raising in Canadian dollars and spending in US isn't an ideal situation, but we got that done. And then the balance of that money is going into, we're doing some additional 2021. We did an initial drill program, but really the focus of 2021 at Gold Chain was consolidating land. So we did a big staking campaign. We tied up 3 sets of patents, and including this last one, which was Sheep Trail. And then now the focus is, and we did some preliminary work on those patents to justify our purchases of them or acquisitions of them. But we need to go in and do some detailed mapping. We need to sit down and figure out exactly what we have and plan the next drill program. So that money is going towards that. And then also, Goldchain has become a very large project, and it's all structurally controlled, all the mineralization. And so the focus is that we're actually flying a geophysics program. They're mobilizing to site as we speak. And the idea being, while parts of it stick out of the ground and it's obvious where the structures are, a chunk of the project is under the pediment or in the gravels, so you can't really see what's there. And so we're trying to identify those, use the geophysics to identify if we can find more of those structures.
Right. Okay. So we need to correct myself. So you went out to raise 2, but only raised 1.3. Was that your choice or the market's choice? What did you?
That was the market's choice.
Right.
It was obviously it was a tough time to raise money.
Yeah. Okay. And I accept your explanation of it. So so it comes back to I'm fascinated with companies down at this level because it's a real art, right? It's really difficult to get right, and sometimes it's a lot of luck and hopefully sometimes a lot of smart decision making. So Goldchain seems to be, you're a little bit excited about what the potential of Goldchain in terms of the scale of the opportunity in front of you. But again, it comes back to this thing of, if the market doesn't understand why you're excited or why they should be excited, you need to find alternative ways to get this thing funded. So, what's on the table? Obviously, JVs and bringing other people in or flipping it out or whatever. What are you thinking about? What are you considering?
Well, I mean, we have the 3 assets. Goldchain is the one we've been working on and spending our money on. That's because we've been permitting at Jefferson Canyon. Jefferson Canyon is probably the most, from a geologic perspective, is probably the most exciting. There's a historic drill hole there that's 40 meters at 6 grams gold and 400 grams silver. So there's definitely an opportunity there, and that's 7 kilometers from Round Mountain, so Kinross's asset. And we could talk about that a little bit more in detail, but, and then our third project is Tip Top. And so, our, alternatives to fund this company besides, raising money, we have 2 actually minority interest JVs as well, that we're, I'm looking at. If I could monetize, I would. Tip Top, while we like the project and has some really good drill results, we're looking at strategic options there as well. Because it's, we have 3 projects and we're a small company. So there isn't a, even if I had all 3 projects permitted and to drill, I couldn't execute the program to drill all 3, right? So that's the thought process of that. And yeah, I mean, I think with your junior mining company at this level, you have to be very pragmatic about how you approach things, right? If somebody, you can't be, oh, we've got to drill it or we've got to do something, like there isn't a, if there's a better solution on the table that, maybe shifts our focus as a company, then we'll look at it. Now, that being said, I would, the biggest win for shareholders, of which I own about 3% of the company, so it's that I've written check out of my pocket to do. I wasn't given 1 cent shares or anything like that. The best way to generate value for shareholders is actually to drill holes yourselves on 100% owned properties. So there's a fine balance of diluting ourselves to deliver those programs, but then also is there an opportunity to be pragmatic about how we approach things and have someone who can do it faster or better and bring some cash in as part of the process.
Absolutely. Okay, so Tip Top, you're looking at strategic options. Goldchain, you like the kind of regional nature of it, and then obviously Jefferson, you're talking about it has the best potential, right? So right. You got choices to make. You are a metallurgist by training, but you've also worked on the street, right? So Bay Street, we're talking about here, but you're going to need to attract people. So you're going to either need to have success doing what you're doing with other projects, or be able to persuade the street that actually, look, go and raise us some money. We'll choose a better time to go and raise some money. Going into a positive gold environment will help. Not that the explorers are benefiting from them yet, but one can hope. But what's going to move the needle for the street or for the markets in your case? Because have you ever run a company before? Have you been a CEO of a public company before? No,
this is my first. This is my first go around. Yep.
Okay, so there's that. What's Robert Johansing done before in terms of that's relevant to what you're trying to do here?
Yeah. So
he's the VP of exploration.
Rob, our VP of exploration, is his background is actually he worked in historically he worked for the Kinross joint venture in El Salvador. Actually made a significant gold discovery there in a low sulfidation epithermal system, which is what we're working on in Nevada. All three of our projects are the same in Nevada and Arizona, and so. Obviously, El Salvador turned upside down while he was there, and so he came. He obviously came back to Nevada and has been working in. He lives in California, which has been a great benefit during COVID because he can basically drive to all three of our projects to continue to advance them. And so that's what he's bringing. And that experience is, and that with these types of systems, what he's bringing to the table. And honestly, he's particularly at Gold Chain, the regional potential that we're seeing there. Was his idea. We had optioned a much smaller piece of ground initially. And then basically he was doing some field work to start, set up for a maiden drill program there. And then as he was doing that work, he, kind of looked to the east and went, the rocks I'm looking at here that are sort of undercover keep going that way. And so we started accumulating land, working east, and why we effectively in 2021 we tripled the land package at Gold Chain. So
right, okay. So given the market said to you, "Hey, Gary, you've got way too many things plate spinning at the moment." I think my last conversation with Gary pretty much said the same thing to him, he's listened, so he's stepping back, and he's executive chairman here. But can he do anything for you, new CEO, to say to people, "Trust us"? We've got something solid here. We believe that we've got the beginning of something. We are clearly cash constrained, but I think we can unlock value if we can do X, Y, or Z. I mean, how do you work together, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, so Gary's a great sounding board because he's run public companies for 15 years plus between Brixton and the geothermal company he ran before. So there is, he's a great resource from that perspective. He has, obviously some industry connections that I don't have, as far as, people. I have connections on the fund and the investor side, and people know me from my background there. He has more connections on the industry side, and so that mixture is better. I mean, the reason Gary and I know each other, and I actually raised a lot of money for Brixton when I was wearing a prior hat. That's I think that's a good marriage as far as what we bring to the table together.
Yeah, but he's got his own problems with Brixton in the sense that he's got a lot of moving parts, a lot of assets, and he's got to figure out how he manages that. What are they, a $55 million company, right? So what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to get is, because you need people to listen to you and go, no, we've got three projects, easy to understand. One of them we clearly want to bring someone in and deal with that. The other two, let me be really clear about how we unlock the value here. So, and I think you've sort of outlined some of the things that you're doing, but is that going to be enough to get people to pay attention to it? And if it's not, what are those options on the table to you? Do you have to pick a favorite child and say, that's the one I'm going with, and we'll flip the other two out? And if so, is it a question of not necessarily the best child, just the favorite child, in the sense that it's require a little bit less money to unlock the value than, say, the other one? Do you know what I mean? I'm saying I'm truly admirers of CEOs who can figure that conundrum out.
Yeah. So I mean, when we went, we've raised money. I've raised money for the company twice, effectively as a CEO twice now. The feedback that we get when we go talk to investors and from a lot of smart sort of early stage exploration investors is they really like Jefferson Canyon. They want us to go drill there. And so, the key to being able to go drill at Jefferson Canyon is to get the permit so that we can go drill. The permitting, it is a U.S. Forest Service property. And I could probably do an hour-long session on land tenure in the United States if you wanted to. But the United Forest Service ground, the big difference is, even for a small drill program, you have to do the biodiversity study and the cultural study up front. And so we have completed those studies. We're in the process. We're getting to the point about where we're going to put the Forest Service on the clock for, once you hand them everything, they have a set period of time. And we'll get permits. And once we have permits to drill, I think the money's there to go drill Jefferson Canyon. And that's why, and that was part of the reason. Well, obviously, when we raised a little bit less money than we set out to at the end of last year, and because of that, that's why we've taken a bit of a step back at Gold Chain and aren't drilling there. We're doing some of the lower cost, the geophysics, the mapping and sampling work to be able to show that story a little bit better. The other challenge we have with Gold Chain is it's in the Oatman district, which is right just north of Elevation Mining, and there. And while I like Mike and Doug a lot, the CEO and chairman of that company, they've got some well-documented challenges as to how things are advancing there. And so, when you go to investors and you talk about a district where the big brother in the district is struggling, it's like, oh, you're going to grow up to be that. So it doesn't ring true. And so we've been and that's part. That was us listening to the market as a bit of a shift of our focus, doing a little bit less, a little bit lower cost work at Gold Chain, because we think we have actually a higher grade story there that we're trying to prove out. And on our neighbors directly to the south, a company called Arizona Silver, they bought our property on the south. They're having some drilling success, and so I think there's an opportunity to demonstrate that in the future. But I think we need to do a little more work, less exciting work for the market, i.e. not drilling there. And so that's what we're doing there. And then, the next drill program, the hope is that is planned to be at Jefferson Canyon. And my expectation is based on timing and how things are falling, that we'll be drilling it this summer.
Right. So how are you keeping control of the finances at the moment in terms of like the G&A component? You told us what you're going to focus on, and it's not the expensive stuff. It's the stuff that just kind of needs doing now, and it's the right order in which to kind of show the potential, and that's fine. But elsewhere, you get a lot of names on the PowerPoint as to who's involved, but who's actually getting paid and actually doing things? Yeah,
I mean, obviously the VPX who's in the field right now, he's getting paid. Our CFO is he's worth mentioning. He owns on a partially diluted basis just under 10% of the company. He's been with it since 2006. So I really like John. When you come into a new company as an executive, and there's always skeletons. There's always things that are unknowns, if you will. And so it's nice having a guy like that who's been with it since the beginning who knows a lot of those things. And Gary and myself both draw salaries as well. So that's the whole company. That's it.
Right.
Everything else is consultants and et cetera.
Okay.
And so we are the G&A of the company is something that I think about a lot. And we have, being in the US, we have property payments as well, and that we have to maintain, and we've been able to put together this great land package. The most important thing and the most for us is to maintain that land package together. So, it costs us about $200,000 a year Canadian to keep the land package together as it sits right now. And so our intention, that last $200,000 in the treasury is sacrosanct, because that has to happen. Everything else is optional before that. So after that. So
okay.
And we're from a cash perspective, we're sitting at about $600,000. What I've sort of said to the market, and what I continue to believe, that will get us to permits for Jefferson Canyon, and then we would be in a position to raise to go drill. Which I think the market would support, and based on the feedback we've gotten, you never know, that changes. But I always say this as a CEO, especially as one as a junior mining company that doesn't have revenue. If the right opportunity comes up before that, we'll obviously we'll take the money, because it's not there's no certainty going in the future. If we see a run, obviously the gold prices run. If we see a run in explorers, and there's an opportunity for us to top up the treasury, we certainly will do it.
If you're that confident about raising money, why don't you do something dramatically different? Or do you feel that obviously Jefferson, I guess, is the preferred, and Gold Chain's not a bad backup, but why don't you go to something dramatic? Would that get you noticed, or do you think that's just a rod for your own back? I mean, you're a market's guy now.
I mean, there are lots of there are lots of different opportunities, and like I said, that there is doing something dramatic is very possible. If you look at our neighbors at Jefferson Canyon are Kinross with Round Mountain. The update on Round Mountain in their last quarterly was not spectacular. That asset does not have a substantial life left. They obviously have documented issues internationally with their assets, or geopolitically. So is there something to do there? Is there the other thing that I look at, and I look at my peer group, and you probably interviewed a half of them, and there's probably maybe a tenth of them, because there's so many of them, but there's maybe 50 or 60, 10 million market cap Southwest US explorers, right? Is there an opportunity for consolidation? Is there because we're all pulling on the same resources, right? Whether it's people, drillers, capital markets, we're all looking in the same spot. So maybe you can get that a little more focused. Is there, Elevation just raised $20 million. Are they, does that change my outlook? But everything's raised $20 million. Does that change my outlook for does that change their outlook, how they want to deal with us at Gold Chain? I don't know the answer to any of those questions because they're all questions, right? But as I kind of said at the beginning, I'm very pragmatic about it. Is there something I can do to demonstrate value or unlock value for shareholders, right? That doesn't necessarily involve us raising money, and we'll look at it. And we have conversation on all of those fronts. We have conversations that we're having. It's just, it's not, I don't know when it's going to happen or if, but it's, and it's got to be the right, it's not going to do something. I'm not going to do something dramatic just to do something dramatic. I'm going to do something dramatic because it makes sense and we think it's going to unlock value.
No, okay. And I understand. Lots of optionality, and it's not necessarily always in your control, but
right.
At least you got to be aware of it to be able to take advantage of it. So no, okay,
right. And you got to be talking, and you got to be talking to people to say, this is what we're doing, this is what's going on, and this is how we get from A to B, right? That's and like I said, no idea is a bad idea initially, right? You got to think it through and see it through. So that's what we're working on.
Like a question sent in, I always appreciate people who send questions in. Which is from someone talking about the AZS, your neighbor to the south, who've got less claims than you, but greater success. In terms of, is there? I guess the answer to the question is: are there any lessons to be learned about the way that people have, all these 50, probably more, 10 million market cap or less companies, go about doing their business and grow? Are there any sort of patterns of behavior that you need to emulate, or is there anything that can be adopted that you might consider?
Well, I mean, Arizona Silver is moving on drilling success, right? They've had some very good holes, so I think it's the stock has had a good move. They were in the camp first, even though they have that small land position. They were the first ones to join, and they're on a. And so, actually, what we're learning from them because they're drilling the same types of targets that we're going to be drilling, and so we're learning where they are depth and geology, and and what we're seeing. And I'm really happy that they're having success. But they were there first. They were there earlier, so they're a little more advanced. They also have a much smaller property package, and so it lets them be, by nature, they're actually more focused on how they approach things. And so I hope they continue to have success, and because that helps us target what we're after. They're on something called the Arabian vein. It's a northeast structure. Our Tyro vein, which is one of the ones that we drilled in the last campaign, is on the same northeast structure. We've identified a couple of others, and part of the geophysics is to try to identify more of these northeast structures because we think those seem to be part of the key. So it's easy for me to, as you said, as we sort of started, the producing neighbor to the south isn't doing great, but the explorer right next to us is having success. And I think that's, the opportunity there is actually to learn. We're going to learn from them technically what they're doing and see if we can apply that on basically across the highway is what it is on our ground.
Absolutely. Derek, appreciate you coming on the show, talking to us, introducing us to the story. I always love a news story. And I suspect we'll see a lot more in 2022 as precious metals go on a bit of a run. But stay in touch, let us know how you get on, and perhaps maybe come back and get a little bit technical with what the guys are doing on the ground.
Thanks, Matt. No, I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts. We talked about a lot of these, we're a 10 million market cap junior gold explorer in the Southwest US, and there's a lot of peers out there. But we have in my mind, why I got involved, why I wrote a check for my personal money is that we have three assets, all of which could justify that 10 million market cap as we sit right now. And I think that as we progress through 2022, you're going to see us start to unlock some of that value, for shareholders.